The restaurant was already thinning out as the late morning rush faded, but for Marcus Hale, time felt heavier than usual. He sat alone at a corner table of a small café in Portland, Oregon, staring at the tear-stained letter beside his half-eaten breakfast. It was the kind of letter that could shatter a man twice his strength, written in the trembling handwriting of a woman he once promised forever to but hadn't spoken to in years. He had read it 3 times already, yet each line struck him harder than the last. As he reached for his wallet, ready to pay the bill and retreat to the silence of his apartment, the door chimed open behind him, and everything that came next would alter the direction of his entire life. If you believe kindness and second chances can change the world, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support truly helps keep stories like this alive. Marcus looked up, expecting an ordinary customer. Instead, a little girl around 7 years old stepped inside, her brown braids neatly tied, though her small hands trembled as she held an envelope against her chest. A well-dressed couple followed close behind her, trying to comfort her, but it was the child's eyes, wide, hopeful, and fighting not to cry, that seized Marcus's breath. The café went still as she scanned the room, walking slowly, almost timidly, until her gaze landed on the crumpled letter on his table. She approached him with the hesitant courage only a hurting child can muster. Her voice was soft, barely steady, but the words pierced the air with heartbreaking innocence. She said her mother had tried so hard to come today. That she had promised she would. That this envelope was meant for him, and she was told he would understand. Marcus felt the world blur for a moment. His pulse stuttered, his chest tightened, and the chair beneath him suddenly felt unsteady. The well-dressed couple explained gently that they were friends of the child's mother, and that the woman, Melissa, had passed away just 2 nights earlier. The letter Marcus had found in his mailbox that morning had been the first sign she still thought of him, now this child was the second. He took the envelope from the girl's shaking hands. The weight of it felt far heavier than paper should ever feel. He opened it slowly, reading Melissa's final words, words filled with regrets, with apologies he never expected, and with a revelation that struck him so deeply he nearly dropped the page. Melissa wrote that the little girl standing in front of him, Ava, was his daughter. She had been too afraid to tell him before, ashamed of the decisions she made when they broke apart, but she never wanted Ava to grow up without knowing her father. She had planned to meet him today, planned to explain everything, planned to beg for forgiveness. But illness had stolen the last of her strength before she reached him. Marcus's world splintered. He looked at Ava again, really looked, and for the first time he saw Melissa's faint smile in her eyes. He saw traces of his own expression in her worried brow. And he felt something inside him break open, flooding with grief, shock, fear, and a strange, fragile hope. The couple explained that they had been caring for Ava during Melissa's decline, but they weren't family. Melissa's wish, her desperate plea, was for Marcus to know the truth and decide if he wanted to be part of Ava's life. The café around them faded into soft, unimportant noise. Marcus knelt down so he was eye level with Ava, trying to speak even though emotion tightened his throat. But he didn't need words. Ava stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him with the unquestioning trust of a child who had already lost too much. The hug undid him completely. Marcus offered to sit with her, and the couple agreed, watching from a distance to give them space. Ava told him about her mother in slow, halting sentences, how Melissa had been working 2 jobs, how she read bedtime stories even when she was exhausted, how she talked about a man she once loved deeply but felt she had disappointed too much to return to. Ava said she didn't fully understand what being sick meant, only that her mother stopped waking up and that today she was supposed to meet someone important. Marcus listened, feeling his heart twist tighter with each detail. He had spent years thinking Melissa left because she simply moved on. Now he knew the truth was much more complicated, tangled in fear, regret, and sacrifice. And here was the result of all those silent years, a little girl who had lost her mother and unknowingly been kept from the father who could have held her sooner. He wanted to run, from responsibility, from grief, from the enormity of what had been placed in his hands. But when Ava reached for the glass of water the waitress set down and her small fingers brushed his, something anchored him. This child was not a mistake. She was not an accident of fate. She was a gift he hadn't known he was missing. He told the couple he wanted to help, that he needed time to understand everything, but he wasn't going to walk away. They nodded, relieved, saying Melissa had hoped he would be a good man. At that, Marcus felt his throat close again. Over the next hour, he made calls he never imagined making: lawyers, social workers, anyone who could guide him through the sudden shift in his life. The couple offered support, but it was clear the decision, the responsibility, the future, all of it would rest on his shoulders. Marcus didn't know if he was ready. But he knew Ava needed someone who wouldn't leave. As they prepared to exit the cafe, Ava tugged at his coat, handing him the small paper Melissa had written a short message on. It simply read, "Tell her I loved her enough to finally be brave." Tears stung Marcus's eyes as he folded the note carefully, holding it like something sacred. He walked outside with Ava's hand in his, stepping into a world that suddenly felt uncertain but meaningful. For the first time in years, Marcus felt a pull toward something bigger than his fear. He didn't know how to be a father, but he knew how to love, and he knew he wasn't going to fail this child the way he had unknowingly failed Melissa. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps these true-to-life stories reach more people who may need them. Before you go, comment below, what would you have done if this moment happened to you?